friends. Welcome to the podcast. I am Melissa Matheson, and today we are talking with my friend Christa about her recent journey with breast cancer. And just in case you men that are listening think you're going to skip out on this one because, well, you think this is a topic for women, I encourage you to go ahead and pull up a chair to the table and hear some great advice on how to love people well when they're dealing with cancer or sickness. I need to go ahead and apologize ahead of time if this conversation sounds a little scattered and pieced together. This topic hit a little too close to home for me personally, and there were several times in the conversation I had to stop recording and start again. One of my own sisters was recently diagnosed with breast cancer, and I've watched her endure the effects of chemo and cancer the last several weeks. Hearing Christa talk so candidly about her own battle with cancer was a bit emotional for me to hear. I almost considered asking Christa to come back and record this podcast again, but her thoughts and responses in this conversation were so beautifully shared that I wanted you to hear them. There are so many things about my friend Christa that we could have discussed, but when I asked Christa to have coffee and join us at the table, I specifically asked if we could talk about her story with breast cancer, as October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I really appreciate Christa sharing just this one small chapter in the story of her life. So go grab your coffee and join us at the table. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we're talking about cancer, family, and loving well. So I want to tell everybody listening how we met.
Okay.
Do you remember how we met?
Please do tell. Because it's pretty awesome.
It is. Yeah. I don't even remember how many years ago it was.
It's been a minute.
It's been a long time that I was on Instagram maybe, I think, and I saw some jewelry for sale. And there was like a cuff bracelet. I was like, I'm going to buy myself a bracelet for Christmas because I was a single mom and I had 3 small kids. And I buy my own presents because they were little.
And you deserve it.
And I bought this cuff bracelet and got some a custom word put on it. And from you.
Do you remember what it was? What your word was?
I think it was.
Is it a scripture?
No, it was I'm going to have to go look it up.
Know.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But I lost it in the storm, so that's why I don't remember what it was. Trust? No,
Maybe.
It was a heart shape. I remember the medallion on it. The charm was a heart.
We're going to have to investigate that.
I have a picture of it. It's on my Instagram right now. I could look it up.
Awesome.
And tell you what it was. But I ordered this cuff bracelet from you. And I don't even know how we became Instagram friends, but we were just friends. And I
Eric
ordered
and Andrea.
But I didn't know that.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then one day, my neighbors, did you come visit them?
I did. Yeah.
You came to visit them, and I recognized you and found out that you were related to my neighbors that had moved to Northwest Alabama. And you were living were you in Texas then?
I think we were still in Virginia at
You
that
were in
point.
Virginia. Are you from Virginia?
Yeah.
Really? What part?
Central. So Petersburg, Hopewell.
Okay. Born and raised.
Born and raised. Yep.
Is that where you met your husband?
Yeah.
How did you meet him?
Well, I was a senior. I had a really bad breakup and I needed a prom date. So my friend knew him. He had went in the Marines and he had come back and introduced me. And I kind of knew him because he was 2 years older than me. So I knew of him, but he was just going to be a prom date. But
And he's a little bit older than you.
2 years, yeah.
2 years older.
Yeah.
You got married. When did you move to Texas?
2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would have been, I did. So it was, you were in Virginia because it had to have been easily 2010 or something when I first met you online. So
that's so funny.
Tell me the story about going from Virginia to Texas. What took you there?
Well, we were pastoring in Virginia and we had pastored this little church. We helped plan it and then we became the senior pastors of it after another one stepped away. And so we had pastored this little church and we loved it, but we felt like the Lord was just calling us out. And we had a connection in Texas and we felt called there. So we ended up moving to Amarillo and we helped revitalize a church, a smaller church that was dying, basically.
Did you know the pastor in Texas?
We did. We knew the bishop of it and he was over a ministry there that we connected with. And so we connected with him and we really loved his heart and we felt like that's what we were supposed to do. So we moved out there to help them and we ended up taking over his church, which was kind of the flagship church of that area, and starting another church. And so we just church.
So you've always been in ministry, pastoring?
Yeah, I mean, I really got saved when Brianna was born. And it was almost like as soon as we got saved and Brianna was born, we started into ministry. We started doing youth ministry. So
I feel like so many pastors start out as youth pastors.
Ministry. I know.
They somehow graduate.
It's true.
And then here we are in Hamilton working with youth again.
I know. What in the world? You can't get away from it.
No, because it's the heart of God.
Yeah.
Young people, kids, they're the heart of God.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
In Texas, how long were you there?
2012 to 16. So almost 4 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you have an interesting story about living there that I really wanted you to talk about today.
Okay.
So and the reason I want to talk about it, I just feel like there's a lot of people right now in my family and in the circle of people that I know that are all kind of walking through this process. Either they have cancer or they know somebody with cancer. Yeah. And you had cancer.
Mm-hmm. I did.
How did that start?
Well, I was 34 and we were pastoring 2 churches, and just stress level was pretty high and just had a lot going on. 3 kids, just rolling, and we didn't have health insurance at the time.
Oh, ouch.
Which a lot of pastors deal with, and people don't talk about that. But we didn't have health insurance, so we didn't go to the doctor very often. The kids had Medicaid, but we didn't. And so I was laying in bed one night, and I sleep on my back, and I just noticed that I had a lump. And I didn't want to, acknowledge it or anything, but so I kind of kept it to myself for a little bit. And then I told Kevin one night, I think that I have this lump and I don't know, and he's like, okay, we'll keep an eye on it. If you feel like you need to go, we'll figure it out. I'm like, well, we don't have insurance. You don't just walk up into an oncology office and just say, hey, I just, so I just kind of kept it to myself. And I had this friend, her name was Robin, who loved the Lord and heard from the Lord, and she invited me over for coffee.
Oh, well.
And she made great coffee. And we were sitting there, we just kind of chit-chatted, and she said, I just need to tell you something. And I said, okay. And she said, I feel like the Lord's told me that you're keeping something and that you need to let it out. And so immediately I knew, like, the Lord's getting me, because
you hadn't told
anyone. I've not.
And you hadn't been to the doctor.
Almost a month at that point.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. And so I just told her everything. Turns out she was very involved in addiction recovery, and she was like a therapist and a counselor. And so she had connections to doctors when they would have addicts come that didn't have insurance.
Right.
She had grants and different things that she could send people, and they would not pay to go to the doctor. So she sent me right over. She made a phone call, and I went to an oncologist at no cost. And so they did all the testing, and they found it was a pretty good size tumor in my left breast. And I don't know how long I'd have let that go. Like looking back, I'm just the busyness of life, and you put yourself last,
right.
And you don't intentionally do that, but you just do it. And so I was able to do all the testing and everything up until the point of diagnosis. The grant covered it, and that gave me time to get health insurance and get all that taken care of. And it was stage 2, but it was grade 3, so it was a pretty good size. And I don't know, I thank the Lord that I went when I did, because I don't know, that's a pretty quick thing, can move pretty quickly. And so I was able to enter treatment and went through that. And my friend that happened with her, the one Robin, she developed a very rare form of cancer that started, they thought it was ovarian, but it ended up being something from an appendix or something, but she ended up passing away from it.
Oh my goodness.
Fought it for a while, and it was just super aggressive. And so...
Was that the same time you were being treated?
Right after.
Right after.
I was starting to, I was in radiation and all that, but I was on the road to recovery at that point, and then she started her fight with hers. And so,
what did that do for you when you're fighting and then somebody else is fighting and they don't make it?
You have this, it's like survivor guilt.
Right.
for sure, because she was amazing. I mean, amazing. Love the Lord. Like, I don't know. I want to be that type of person that has that discernment that someone doesn't walk by me and I miss something.
Right.
And that's who she was. Like, she never let you walk by her without her saying, "How are you?" No, how are you? You know, that kind of person.
Because she would know.
She just knew.
She knew.
She cared enough, you know.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was rough. Because even during my treatment, I was too sick to get out of the bed. She would come and pick up my kids, and she would spend one-on-one time with them. She would take each one, like, out to eat or to shop or just to spend time. Just little things like that, you know, make meals. And those little things are such big things, you know.
When you were diagnosed, you started chemo.
I did.
What was your treatment like? Was it every other week? Were you going weekly?
You go weekly. I had 6 weeks of it, and I mean, it was rough. I had hoped that I would be one of the ones that it didn't make you too sick where it would affect your life, but it definitely took me out of the game. And
for people that don't know what chemotherapy is, what does it do? So you said it was rough. What exactly happens?
I had to get a port. You get a port placement because the drugs are just too harsh for you to get it in your veins. I mean,
so
you
a
have
port
to,
is like a thing they insert like under your skin for them to
on your shoulder, chest area.
You go into surgery, have that inserted, and that's where you get your drugs, your chemo through.
And they draw blood through there because you get blood drawn so often also. And so you go in, and I had 4 different types of medicines they were giving me weekly. Then I always had to go in the day after, and you get the Neulasta shot, which is supposed to kind of help you out, your immune system and all that. But it's rough, you know, it's rough. And
your hair falls out.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Was that traumatic for you?
Also, I hoped, I might be one of that 1% that it doesn't. You know, no, it started coming out in chunks. You know, and one night I just told Kevin, I said, I just want you to come with me in here. I just want you to cut this, like just cut it. And so he shaved it off with his little buzzers, the rest of it, and your eyelashes fall out, your eyebrows, your leg hair, which you don't really mind.
We don't care, do we, girls?
That, but everything, you know, and it kind of makes you
nauseated as well.
Oh, it's awful. It smells.
Weak.
Coffee. That was the saddest.
You couldn't drink coffee.
I couldn't smell it, drink it, be around it.
Oh,
it was terrible.
That is.
But
hard.
I remember my first cup.
After
I do. I remember thinking, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. And it was so great. I was like, oh, this is so wonderful.
Now, at the time, so you have 2 girls, you have and a boy. Mm-hmm. And how old were they when you were diagnosed, when you were 34? They were...
Well, Alyssa was in middle school and Bree was in high school. KJ was still in elementary. So let me see, it was 2014. So what is that? It's been 5 years.
Okay.
So yeah, so KJ was about 8. I guess. I mean, he was still little, and he actually wanted to cut his hair like mine. So,
so you told the kids. That was my...
I did.
You had to tell them.
You know, you have to. Like, you can't hide, and of course you try to... I tried to hide the worst of it. I didn't want them to know exactly how bad it was, but, you know, you have to be honest and open and talk to them, and, yeah, so...
And that was hard for them to hear.
It was, and KJ didn't understand, you know, and Alyssa had a friend pass away from cancer. She had leukemia while we were in Texas, actually. So she heard the word cancer, and it was, you know, very scary for her.
Was that your initial thought when you heard cancer? Were you thinking, I'm going to die? Or were you thinking, this is going to be yuck for a while?
I just thought... It was a wake-up call for sure. You believe, you know that the Lord is a healer, and you know, you believe that, you know, but it's scary because you wonder, but what if that's not my route? What if this is going to be?
What if your healing is you're in heaven one day?
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember I bought 3 little books for my kids, and I started writing out all these things in each book. Just special things about them or things that I had always wanted to tell them, or, you know, just what if this doesn't turn the way I want it to, then I want, you know.
Want them to have something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. For sure. How did it, you did chemo for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Did you end up And then radiation, you had surgery.
Shrunk it down to almost the tip of my pinky. It was that small.
Wow.
It was a good size. So that was amazing. And they removed that little bit. And then they reconstructed both to look the same, just to make me feel normal and all that. And then I rested for a little bit, and then I did the radiation after that. And after that, you're kind of, I had to do the Herceptin. I want to say that was once a month or every 3 weeks maybe. And I would go in, and I had to do that for a while. I took tamoxifen. I just stopped having to take tamoxifen every day. They tell you 5 years. So I just hit my 5-year mark.
5-year mark.
And I was never so happy for somebody to tell me that I can stop filling a prescription, that was really great. And so right now I'm cancer free. I don't have to take a thing. I have to go once a year, just to as a whatever. But yeah.
When you went into remission, do you feel like it's finished, or do you ever have these times where you wonder this could come back, or am I going to have to go through this again?
I do. That fear's always there. And I just went not too long ago for my yearly mammogram and blood work and all that stuff. And every time it's like I'm holding my breath, and I'm, it's a scary thing. I try not to partner with fear and all, you tell yourself all the scripture things, all the God things, but fear's there, and it tries to pull on you. But I don't know. It's just day by day, I guess. You just have to encourage yourself. Yeah.
So where was God in all of this for you?
Oh, goodness. Right with me. Like right with me. When you go into the chemo lab, they can't, your people, whoever's with you, they can wait in the waiting room, but they can't come back there and stay with you. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of forced to be by yourself. And I've never been that kind of person that enjoys being alone. Like I need somebody. I prefer to have somebody with me, but those times where you have to sit there, I want to say it's like 90 minutes that you're kind of by yourself. You're just sitting there, and you're alone with your thoughts. And I'm very thankful for like the outpouring of love that was shown during that time, and people coming by and people texting, people just encouraging. But it's those alone times that you can really, really hear the Lord. And he was just there, he was just there. It wasn't even that he said a whole lot to me. Like it was just
knew
I just
you weren't
knew
alone.
I wasn't alone. And I don't know. People have asked, like, how do you hear the word cancer, and how do you walk through that? I'm like, I don't know. you just do it. And it's almost like he pushed me through, like nudged me through. So, yeah.
Are you a different person?
Oh, yeah.
Now than you were? What's changed about you?
I don't think that, and I love my husband, but I don't think I rely on him as much, being just super dependent upon him, because I feel like I did that before. And in this, I had to face this alone. Like I had to walk this out. I didn't have, like I said, it was just me and the Lord in a lot of places. And you just have those moments where you realize, like, I can do this because the Lord's with me. Like, I don't have to have a person necessarily to hold me up. Like, the Lord is holding me up, and he can handle it, like
I think he can.
I think he's got it.
He's
like,
God.
He does not need help, and I just, my faith, everything is so much stronger than it was before, because we say, if you haven't really weathered a storm, it's easy to say, oh, God is good all the time, or God can do anything. Like, we quote all the scriptures and we know all the things, but when you really walk through something and you see that you made it, and you see the Lord brought me through that, like nothing can take it from you,
Right.
And your faith is just crazier than it ever was.
Was there ever a time that you maybe felt angry at God in this process?
Yeah, probably so. And I just...
Because he's big, he can handle it.
Absolutely.
So don't feel bad if you were angry.
Oh, yeah. I was, for sure, just because you think, I've had moments where that, it's Psalm 91. Like, I believe Psalm 91. I believe I'm under his wing and in his shelter, and that he is my protector over my family and everything. And so you think, well, I'm in ministry, he's going to protect me. I shouldn't have to. Well, I tell people all the time that the Lord is good. Like,
right.
why would I have to go through something to prove it,
Right.
And so I did have those moments like, why? What? Like, I'm a pastor's wife. Why would I get cancer? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
that,
As if only the bad people get
only
cancer
bad
and good people
are supposed
don't.
to. Yeah. And so I didn't realize I felt that way, but there were moments where I'm like, whoa, maybe I was a little mad at him or doubting him.
Hey, I didn't deserve this,
yeah,
or
I'm a
my
good person.
my family didn't deserve
I'm pretty
this.
good. Like, why? Yeah.
Yeah. I had a friend make a comment the other day about sometimes when things are hard, we think it's bad.
Yeah.
And only the good things, are God. Mm-hmm. But really, there's this place that when you are going through difficulty, that God is in.
Yes.
And I don't think that God causes sickness.
Right.
I do not think that God would use sickness in that way at all.
Yeah.
But I think that what the enemy intends for evil in our lives, that God does turn for good.
For sure.
But there's a place when you go through difficulty and transition, and places where you can't do anything except let God be God.
Yeah.
There's this strength that is built up in you, and endurance.
Yeah.
And I think God is so glorified in that, that it's almost like, I remember Rabbit Trail. I remember one time being in such a broken place, my heart broken over something. And there was that verse that God is near the brokenhearted. But being in this place where God is so near the brokenhearted. And I remember in that season that was so difficult that God was so near.
Yeah.
Like, I could just close my eyes and I didn't even have to pray, but I could feel his presence. And I remember going, if I can feel him like this, I almost don't want to get well. I almost don't want to get better, because he felt so near in that season. Yeah. But I do think that in difficulty, in hardship, that there is a place in the Lord that changes us, grows us in ways that we can't even fully understand, that really make us different and new and whole in areas of our lives that were broken before, and we didn't even really know it until later down the road.
So
and you're
true.
like, oh, I don't struggle with that anymore.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to just the goodness of God going, I know, while you were sick or while you were moving, or I was taking care of all this other stuff for you while you were going through that.
Yeah. And there's things about your heart that you don't realize until you get to those vulnerable places. Like, when you get vulnerable, you're like, ooh, I didn't know that was still in there. I'm going to have to deal with that, because I can totally see it now.
You can totally see it. Your girls are how old?
20 and 17.
20 and 17.
Yeah.
And KJ is
13.
13. So when you moved from Texas to Alabama, what was that like, moving your children?
Well, when we moved from Virginia to Texas, it was, we feel the Lord's called us here for ministry. This is probably where we're going to live forever, all that. So it was different. But when we moved from Texas to Alabama, our marriage was just a mess, and it felt like we were running for our lives. Like, we needed a safe place. So they all knew that. And there was there was a little bit of sadness to leave, but they knew, okay, we got to go. We got to go, So it was like this urgency almost. And so we moved to Alabama. It was Bree's senior year. So she had to start a new high school her senior year with all these people she didn't know, so that was a little traumatic in that. And then, of course, Alyssa and KJ both starting new schools. And I look back on it now, and I think, the Lord made it as soft of a landing as he could, as crazy as that would be to just, pull kids out and move them here and you start a new school, whatever. But it really wasn't like that to the degree it could have been without him, And so I mean, it's definitely been a journey, and we're still navigating it. Like, I still am not going to sit here and say, "Oh, I figured it out now." Like, I don't know.
Because you were in remission already when you moved from Texas to Alabama.
I was.
You were already finished all your treatment. So was the problems in your marriage, was that a result of your process with cancer? Was it just difficult in that season?
No, it was like it revealed some things in that, because he wanted to be able to fix things because he's a fixer and he couldn't fix it. And
what's his Enneagram number? Do you know what his is?
I want to say a 5, but I can't remember.
We're going to have to find out.
Because he's not too big on that stuff. But I am. So I need to get to the bottom of it. He's either a 3 or a 5.
3 or 5. And you're a 6.
I am.
Which is the fiercely loyal friend, and but also struggle with fear a lot.
Oh, yes.
The 6s do,
and the
don't
planning and the knowing.
Yes. Yes. What I love about the Enneagram, and here's why. I remember my husband did not even want to, but for me, I have found it to be such a wonderful tool in relationships, in learning how to communicate with one another. And so if I can know, oh, he hears this in this way, when I say it, I need to say it differently, or it just helps me be able to speak their language. And I think when you go through difficulty, communication with your family, with your spouse is very important. My sister, I was recently with them in a crisis in their life, and they were having a difficult time, and she was saying this, and he said this, and I said, okay, here's the problem. You're an Enneagram 7, you're an Enneagram 8. You guys need to just go take a nap, because they were tired. And they were really, that was really the root of this huge argument that they were having, is that they were under a lot of stress, a ton of stress.
You're at the end of your
and I understood how he was responding based on who he is and how he is, and how she was responding. And I was like, you know what? You guys are just stressed. You just need to go take a nap. And sometimes the things that are really big, sometimes we just need a nap.
No, it's
or
so
a cup
true.
of coffee.
Right. And a porch swing.
And a porch swing. So you have a beautiful little cabin that you live in here. What do you love most about your cabin?
My porch swing and my bathroom. I have a really nice tub. I really love it.
Oh.
There's ministry in the bathtub for sure.
There is.
Everyone
in mine
needs a great
too.
bathtub.
I love that's like my quiet place is in mine as well. Sorry, I thought you were flagging me down. We'll let it all out. So if I, something I just thought of, how do people need to respond to somebody with cancer? What do I need to say? What did you need people to do or say for you in that journey?
That's a really great question and thought, because when it happened, there's different times and different feelings that you have. There were times when I thought I need people, but really I didn't. I just needed to rest and be with the Lord and that kind of thing. There were some people that were they were just amazing. Like, they would bring my food, because I had kids, I couldn't cook, Right. And so our churches were amazing. They would bring my food. They would come get the kids. They would take care of the kids. I even had someone pay someone to clean my house, which I say now, I'm not going to let anybody clean my house. I can clean my house. But at that point, I could not clean my house.
Right.
And that was the most incredible gift, having someone come and vacuum and do my dishes. And but they would just stop by, or they would just send a text and just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I think there are some people that don't know what to say, and so they don't say anything. And I think that can be hurtful, because you need to know that you're cared for and that you're thought about. They don't even have to come over. They don't have to come do anything extra, just the thought, just knowing that you're being thought about is so powerful, and being prayed for. And, there were people, my sweet friend Robin, she bought me this blanket and I called it my angel blanket. And it was like the softest blanket in the world. Like cancer patients, get them a soft blanket. Like, like anytime somebody's going through something, that's just it was such a gift. But just something like that. Someone found out that I loved croissants from Sam's Club, which is so random. And there were times I couldn't eat a thing, but I could usually eat a croissant from Sam's. So they would buy me these humongous things and just drop them. One time I got a text, there's a box of croissants on your porch. They didn't even knock because they didn't know if I was asleep,
Did you communicate that kind of stuff to these people, or were these just ideas of their own?
I think they asked either the kids or Kevin or something, what are some things I liked or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Just little simple things.
What is something we should not do or say?
Oh, tell them that they look tired.
Okay.
That's the worst. I would drag myself to church and I would wrap a scarf around my bald head, and like drag myself and sit there and try to make it through. And people would say, "Oh, you just look so tired." And well, thanks.
I'm sick.
I totally am, but thanks.
I have cancer.
That was really the only thing. There wasn't really anything offensive or anything like that. I think don't assume that they want you to come over and just want to talk, because sometimes they're not going to want to talk. They're just in that place. But, I think that's just try to be sensitive.
Did you ever feel like in public that everybody was looking at you?
Oh, yeah.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. And I did the fake eyelash thing because I could not stand not having eyelashes. And so I'd slap them things on. But, you can't, your hair, I didn't do the wig thing. Like some people do that. And my mom did buy me one and I just could not. It just was not working. So I just bought the pretty scarves at World Market and I rolled with that.
I think it would kind of be fun with all the scarves.
Yeah.
I mean, all the different wigs. Like, I think I'll be a redhead today.
Yeah.
I think I want curly hair today.
Yeah.
But my sister is also in her journey with breast cancer as well. Yeah. And her head is so sensitive that she can't stand for anything to touch it. And she said the other day, I would not wear a wig. I can't even put one of these little silk hats on my head. It hurts so bad sometimes. Aww. So she's in that place where she's all about the scarves.
Yeah, the softest scarves.
Yes. Well, I think there's something so beautiful too that, you probably felt insecure about the way you looked, not having eyelashes and not having hair and maybe feeling tired or looking tired. But to me, when I see people, I'm more aware, I think, right now when I see people in public that you go, oh, I know that they're in chemo right now. But to me, when I see them, it's not a pity that I feel. I hope that's okay. I see them and I think, wow, they look beautiful. Awesome. They're so brave. Look at them here. And and if you ever wondered what people think, that's what we think.
Yeah.
So tell me what's next.
Oh, Lord. You tell me. Do you see anything? What do you hear?
I've been asking God for myself for so long.
I know. I noticed the title of the podcast and I thought, what's next? I don't know. What is next? Maybe I'll go and they'll say, we've heard from the Lord for you. We just want to tell you what we hear. I don't know. I want to know. I mean, we've pastored for so long and now, I'm a receptionist. So that's
Have you ever thought about writing a book?
I've started a book.
Yay!
I have 5 chapters in, actually.
Look at you.
I know. Lindsay Doss actually pushed me a little bit. And
so Lindsay is a friend of ours that pastors Hope Unlimited Church in Knoxville, who is an author who's written books about her own journey.
Yes, and is super encouraging about it. And I mentioned to her once that I wanted to, and so she's encouraged me about it. I'll get there. I'm getting there.
You're getting there.
I'm getting there.
One page at a time.
One page at a time. Yeah.
I've just learned that there is a timing with God.
Yeah.
That we can't understand.
That's
it's
right.
really just trusting Him, because something that could seem like a really long time for us
is nothing
to Him. It's like
a minute.
So sometimes you get a word from God and then you wait 10 years to see even remotely anything, of that. And that can be a challenging place to be sometimes, can't it?
It can, yeah.
Do you have a book title yet? Still thinking about it?
I'm still thinking about it, but I've thought about Tales of a Pastor's Wife. Just because I have a few.
You do?
I have a few. Yeah.
I'm sure some people would probably pick it up and read it for that.
Yeah. Because the pastor's wife always got some stories, some things on her heart too. And sometimes she gets overlooked. But she usually has to carry much of the burden.
Sure.
Yeah.
I had a thought that I just lost that I was going to go with when you were saying that about... Hold on, it's really good. I want it to come back.
What were we saying?
We were talking about Tales of a Pastor's Wife. Oh, I know. I was going to ask you. So, because you said pastor's wife, that's what made me think of it. Because you think of the pastor, and then you're just the pastor's wife,
right?
But what is your gift? Do you know what your spiritual gifts are? What do you feel like? What are you passionate about doing?
I love to teach.
Okay.
I do. Prophetic for sure. And of course I've just going through different things, that voice has been challenged. So I feel like that is one thing in this next season. What's next? I am finding my voice again. So I'm grateful for that. I'm becoming more confident in that.
That's
that voice,
amazing.
So, yeah.
So the Jewish calendar has already started the new year. So, and the Hebrew year is 5780. And 80 is pay, which is the mouth. It is the year of the mouth.
Well, imagine that.
So finding your voice in this next year, I think sounds about right.
Yes. Well, I receive every bit of that. I want that.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. Well, we'll just start with the podcast.
Yeah.
How's that?
Right. That's great.
So thanks for talking with us.
Thank you.
Oh man, all the feels on that one, guys. I so appreciate Christa's courage and the beautiful way she talks about her journey with breast cancer. This would be a great episode to share with anyone who has cancer or knows someone with cancer, so that we can better know how to be a community of people who love well in the middle of sickness. I encourage you to reach out today to someone you know who is dealing with cancer or sickness in their body, and simply let them know you were thinking of them. Friends, so glad you could join us at the table today, and when Christa finishes writing her book, we'll let you know how you can get a copy. If you'd like to get connected, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook under the name Melissa Matheson. That's math, like 4 + 1 = 5, I before E, son, S-O-N. Friends, I hope you plan to join us again on Wednesday as we sit around the table, have a cup of coffee, and talk about the camels coming on What's Next, God?